Number 7, 1973 Pontiac Firebird Formula 455 Super Duty, 43 units built. By 1973, the muscle car era was already on life support. Emissions regulations had been tightening their grip for years. Insurance companies had figured out what these cars could do and priced them accordingly. The golden age of factory performance was ending in real time, and most manufacturers had quietly accepted that reality. They softened their engines, watered down their performance packages, and started writing the obituaries. Most manufacturers, not all. At Pontiac, a group of engineers decided they weren't ready to surrender, so they did something quietly extraordinary. They smuggled a race specification engine into production. They called it the Super Duty 455. 455 cubic inches of V8 displacing 7.5 liters, producing 310 net horsepower and 390 pound-feet of torque at a time when the rest of Detroit was celebrating making it to 200. The Super Duty name had history behind it. It referenced the factory racing engines Pontiac had built a decade earlier, engines that had dominated drag strips across the country. Reviving that name in 1973 was a statement of intent. Most buyers who ordered the SD 455 put it in the Trans Am, the loud, striped, aggressively styled Firebird variant that wore its performance credentials on the outside. 252 of them went that route, but 43 buyers made a different call. They ordered the Super Duty engine in the formula, a Firebird body style that was quieter, more understated, and carried none of the Trans Am's theatrical visual excess. Twin hood scoops were the only real giveaway. No screaming graphics, no wing, just the engine, the power, and the knowing look of someone who didn't need to announce themselves. 43 units. In a world that had decided performance was over, 43 people ordered the most powerful engine available and put it in the car nobody was expecting. That is exactly the kind of decision that creates legends. Number 6, 1971 Pontiac GT37 L75 455 HO54 units. Pontiac's marketing team once described the GT37 as, and this is a real tagline, the GTO for people who can't afford a GTO. That sentence tells you almost everything you need to know. The GT37 was a stripped-down, no-frills, mid-size coupe built on the Tempest T37 platform. It came without the heavy sound insulation, without the chrome trim, without the luxury appointments that added weight to the standard GTO. Dual exhaust, hood pins, basic body stripes, that was the package. It was a budget muscle car in the most literal sense of the phrase. And because it was marketed as an economy option, most buyers treated it like one. They ordered it with small, sensible engines. They used it as basic transportation. The GT37 was never meant to be a performance story, but 54 people had other ideas. 54 buyers looked at this bare-bones, lightweight, mid-size coupe and decided to check the box for the 455 high-output V8. 335 horsepower, 480 pound-feet of torque. In a car that weighed significantly less than the GTO it was nominally positioned below. The math was brutal. An unbadged GT37 with the 455 HO would walk away from GTO drivers who had paid considerably more for considerably less. It was a sleeper before the term existed. A wolf in the cheapest possible clothing, quietly capable of humiliating cars with far more prestigious nameplates. 54 of them were built. Most people have never heard of them. Their auction values are finally starting to reflect what they actually are. Number 5, 1971 Pontiac GTO Judge Convertible, 17 built. In 1969, the Judge arrived like a punch to the face. Loud colors, cartoonish graphics, a rear wing that made absolutely no apologies for existing. The Judge was Pontiac's answer to a very specific question. What happens when you take the GTO, already one of the most iconic muscle cars in American history, and turn every dial up past the point of reason? The answer was a car that demanded attention whether you wanted to give it or not. It sold well. It made noise. It became a cultural moment. By 1971, the cultural moment had passed. The market had shifted with uncomfortable speed. Safety advocates were growing louder. Insurance premiums on high-performance cars had become genuinely punishing. Fuel economy was becoming a conversation that couldn't be ignored. The wild, defiant graphics of the Judge, which had felt thrilling in 1969, felt almost naive by 1971, like a party that hadn't noticed the room had emptied. Sales collapsed. Pontiac saw the numbers and made the decision that anyone watching closely had seen coming. They canceled the Judge package midway through the 1971 production run. It was over. The most theatrical muscle car Pontiac ever built was being quietly retired before the model year had even finished. But before the doors closed, 17 convertibles left the factory. 17 open-top GTOs wearing the judge's full regalia. The graphics, the wing, the 455 high output with 335 horsepower and 480 pound-feet of torque. Built in the final weeks of a package that would never return. Some were fitted with the 4-speed manual, others with the 3-speed turbo hydromatic automatic. All 17 represent the same thing, the last open-air breath of the original muscle car era, built right at the moment the door was closing for good. When one surfaces today, it doesn't sell, it events. Number 4, 1963 Pontiac Catalina Super Duty Swiss cheese, 14 units produced. This is where the list stops being about rare cars and starts being about obsession. In 1963, Pontiac had a problem. The full-size Catalina was a big, heavy car. And on the drag strip, big and heavy meant slow. Compact Fords and lightweight Dodges were beating them in NHRA stock classes, and that was not acceptable. Pontiac's engineers were not the kind of people who accepted losing quietly, so they sat down and asked themselves a very direct question. How do you make a full-size car fast enough to compete with cars that weigh 1,000 pounds less? The answer they arrived at was, depending on your perspective, either brilliant engineering or borderline insanity. They took 14 production Catalinas and drilled approximately 120 holes straight through the steel frame rails. Not small holes, not subtle lightning cuts. Large structural holes punched through the chassis in a pattern that removed meaningful weight while, theoretically, maintaining enough integrity to hold the car together. The nickname wrote itself, Swiss cheese. Then they replaced the steel front fenders and hood with aluminum panels, gutted the interior down to racing essentials, and dropped in the 421 cubic inch Super Duty V8, factory rated at 405 horsepower, though blueprinted examples were reliably pushing past 500. The cars were stamped with warnings at the factory stating they were unsafe for public road use. Pontiac built them anyway because the NHRA required a minimum number of production units for stock class eligibility. And winning was the only objective. 14 cars, a drilled frame, a factory warning label telling you not to drive it on public roads, and an auction record that recently crossed $742,500 for a pristine example. The Swiss cheese Catalina isn't just a rare car. It's evidence of what happens when an engineering department decides that the rule book is more of a suggestion. Number 3, 1963 Pontiac Tempest Super Duty Coupe and Wagon, 12 built. If the Swiss cheese Catalina represents obsession, the 1963 Pontiac Tempest Super Duty represents something closer to madness, and that's meant as the highest possible compliment. The Tempest was a compact car, a small, relatively lightweight platform that Pontiac sold to buyers who wanted something practical, economical, and easy to live with. It was never designed to house a large displacement performance engine. The engineering simply wasn't there to support it. The chassis wasn't built for that kind of power. The drivetrain wasn't configured to handle that kind of torque. Pontiac's engineers looked at all of that and proceeded anyway. 12 cars were built, a mix of Le Mans coupes and extraordinarily station wagons, each fitted with the full-size 421 cubic inch Super Duty V8, producing 405 horsepower. Putting that engine in a compact Tempest required a solution that was technically audacious, even by the standards of an era that produced the Swiss cheese Catalina. The torque loads were so violent that engineers developed a unique rear transaxle setup, a complex split drivetrain arrangement that sent power to the rear wheels through a configuration the Tempest had never been designed to accommodate. Like the Swiss cheese cars, the Tempest Super Duties were loaded with aluminum components to save every possible pound. Like the Swiss cheese cars, they were destined for the hands of professional racers, legendary NHRA figures like Mickey Thompson, rather than ordinary buyers. These were not street cars with a racing option. They were racing cars that technically had VIN numbers. One of them sat forgotten in a barn for decades. When it was eventually discovered and sold, rusted, incomplete, missing its engine, it brought $226,000 at auction, as a shell without a drivetrain. 12 were built. The ones that survive are among the most historically significant pieces of American automotive history in existence. Full stop. Number 2. 1969 Pontiac Firebird Trans Am convertible, 8 units built. 8. That number is worth sitting with for a moment. Not 800, not 80. 8 total cars built in a single model year, representing the rarest configuration of one of the most iconic nameplates in American automotive history. 1969 was the year the Trans Am was born, and Pontiac almost didn't get there at all. The Trans Am package was so new, so rushed into production that Pontiac hadn't even developed a proper marketing campaign for it. There was no glossy brochure, no television advertisement, no carefully orchestrated launch event. The Trans Am simply appeared in the order books, and buyers either found it or they didn't. Of the people who did find it, only 697 ordered it that first year, a number that seems impossibly small for a car that would go on to define an entire era of American performance culture. Under the hood sat the 400 cubic inch Ram Air 3 V8, 335 horsepower, 430 pound-feet of torque, breathing through a functional hood scoop that meant business. The suspension was purpose-tuned for handling rather than pure straight-line speed. The white and blue exterior with the distinctive racing stripes announced something new was happening. The Trans Am Coupe of 1969 is already one of the most collectible American cars ever built. But 8 people made a different request. They didn't want the coupe, they wanted the convertible. 4 were ordered with the 4-speed manual transmission, 4 with the 3-speed automatic. All 8 wore the full Trans Am package, the stripes, the scoops, the suspension tuning, everything, on an open-top body that the nameplate would never offer again after this single model year. The convertible Trans Am existed for exactly 1 year and in exactly 8 examples. When one of these surfaces from a private collection, which happens rarely and quietly and with significant anticipation among serious collectors, it doesn't sell for muscle car money. It sells for museum money. 7 figures every time without exception. This is the birth certificate of one of America's greatest performance nameplates, printed 8 times with the roof cut off. Number 1, 1969, Pontiac GTO Judge Ram Air 4 convertible, 5 units built. 5 cars, in all of automotive history, across every factory, every model year, every option combination ever assembled on a production line. Only 5 of these exist. And what they represent isn't just rarity. It's the absolute convergence of everything Pontiac stood for at the precise moment Pontiac was at its best. Start with the platform. The 1969 GTO was already the gold standard of the American muscle car, the car that had effectively invented the formula back in 1964 and had spent 5 years perfecting it. By 1969, it was a fully mature, deeply capable performance machine with a reputation that every other manufacturer was trying to catch. Then add the Judge package. The loud graphics, the rear spoiler, the bold color options, the theatrical confidence of a car that had absolutely nothing to prove and dressed like it knew it. The Judge was expensive. It was conspicuous. It was, in the most literal sense, a statement of intent. Then, and this is where things become extraordinary, check the box for the Ram Air 4 engine. The Ram Air 4 was not a comfortable engine. It was not an engine built for morning commutes or relaxed highway cruising. 400 cubic inches, 370 horsepower at 5,500 RPM, 445 pound-feet of torque. Those numbers tell part of the story. The engineering details tell the rest. An aluminum intake manifold, radically modified cylinder heads with larger ports and valves, a hyper-aggressive camshaft that made the engine lope and surge at idle in a way that made perfectly clear this was not standard equipment. The Ram Air 4 wanted to rev, and it wanted to be driven hard, and it did not particularly care about your comfort while doing so. This was the most exotic, most demanding, most capable engine Pontiac offered in 1969, and it came at a price that reflected exactly that. Combining the Judge package with the Ram Air 4 on a convertible GTO produced a window sticker that was genuinely shocking for its era, the kind of number that made buyers pause, do the math again, and usually walk away. 5 people didn't walk away. 5 buyers in the entire 1969 model year checked every box. The Judge package, the Ram Air 4, the convertible top. 5 people said yes to all of it, paid what it cost, and drove home in a car that the rest of the world wouldn't fully understand for another 30 years. Today, the 1969 GTO Judge Ram Air 4 convertible holds the record for the most expensive production GTO ever sold at auction. When one changes hands, which almost never happens, because the people who have them tend to understand exactly what they have, the transaction clears 7 figures without negotiation. It is not simply the rarest Pontiac muscle car ever built. It is one of the rarest, most historically significant factory production vehicles in American automotive history. A car so expensive to option, so uncompromising in its performance demands, and so perfectly timed at the absolute peak of the muscle car era that only 5 human beings on the entire planet decided they wanted one. They were right.